Hi, I'm Billy Keels, the host of the Going Long podcast. Every week, I'm going to be here interviewing the absolute best in the business as it relates to real asset investing, as well as real Main Street investors. We're going to be having conversations where you can listen in, and that's going to help you to continue on your path to education so that you feel much more comfortable as well as confident in investing long distance. So make sure that you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you're liking it as well, because that way you can get every single episode as soon as it comes out. And by the way, don't forget to leave today's episode a 5-star review. Let's go ahead and listen to today's conversation. Welcome to the Going Long podcast, where we're here to continue to help educate so that you can feel more confident investing beyond your backyard. Now, if you've ever tried to figure out how to create powerful networks and also leverage the skills that you've learned in a corporate job so that you can live your best life, then you are definitely going to want to listen to every single second of this conversation. Because today's guest not only had worked in the corporate world for almost 15 years at Bloomberg, also is the principal of Mesos Capital LLC and the host of his own podcast, which is the Gold Collar Investor. Has also had owned over 32 million assets under management. He's someone who hails from India, has had the opportunity to also live and create a life in the United States. And it is my pleasure to welcome Mr. Pancham Gupta. Hey, Pancham, thanks so much for joining us and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Billy, for having me. It's amazing to be with you today and talk about this stuff.
Yeah, this is really, really looking forward to it. I always like to ask, just as we get started, there's a couple things I want to know, but before we even get started, tell us where in the world you are today.
Where I'm in New York. I live in New York in the US, and originally I'm from India. I was born and brought up in India.
Okay, fantastic. So today we have New York City connecting with Barcelona, Spain. So this is going to be awesome. So Pancham, just so you can help everyone get an understanding more about Pancham, the man. During your career in your life, you've had the opportunity to make a number of different decisions that have brought you to this point in your life. And as it relates to your development as an entrepreneur and a real estate investor, if you could help us understand a little bit more about you, Pancham.
Sure. Let me start with my background a little bit because that will help in getting to the point. I was born and brought up in India, and in 2003, I decided to come to the US for my master's degree. So my parents, my extended family, everyone has been an entrepreneur all their life. They own small businesses back in India, and so I, while growing up, always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And but also at the same time, when I was a kid, computers and engineering in general really excited me. So I kind of chose computer science as my bachelor's program when I was doing my bachelor's, and I decided to do my master's in the US. So that the idea was to get the master's, get some experience, and go back to India and actually start something on my own over there. So I graduated in 2005 and I started working here. And in 2009, after I got married in 2008, my wife and me, we actually sold pretty much all of our furniture to go back home. And we found out at the same time that we were expecting a kid, our firstborn. And we decided, okay, you know what, let's buy everything back. It's hard to move places, even homes, forget countries while you're expecting. So why not just do that and have our firstborn and then move back? But in 2011 and 12, like, things changed and we decided to stay in the land of opportunity forever, which is the US. And that's when I started investing in the US. And before that, I actually started 2 startup companies while in the US, and none of them went anywhere. I actually lost quite a bit of money, and but learned a lot from that. And in 2012, I started investing in the US in the real estate as a side hobby, and slowly that turned into addiction, and at some point it became my passion, and now I'm doing that full time. So that's a very brief of my
Wow. That's phenomenal. If we just think about the decisions that you had to make from 2003 up to today, which is 2020, it's pretty amazing. So from being able to follow a training or a education path, then making decisions on your own life, then having the opportunity to have children, then working in having your own startups, having that entrepreneurial blood, and nowadays going from addiction to passion. I love that, and that's phenomenal. So there's so many different things we could unpack and we could start to talk about. But you mentioned something. So you said that you worked with two startups, or you started two startups, and that those didn't work out. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about what was the driver behind those two startups, aside from what you kind of had already in the family blood that you talked about before?
Yeah, no, the driver was that I really wanted to solve problems as an engineer. Like, we found a problem in the marketplace, and both of these issues were actually, I don't know if you want me to get into the startups what they were, but both of these startups were around software companies, and I wanted to solve specific problem. And the first one was mainly a social network around activities. Like, so for example, in the US, I love playing badminton, I love playing table tennis, ping pong, and I was having really hard time, because these are not major sports in the US, to find people who actually love playing the same sports, and locations where I can go and meet these people. So the idea was to get a network of people around their social network around activities. So that didn't go anywhere. And then the second was to it actually was for India, because I was planning to go back home. I started a company with my friend in India to fix the fragmented trucking model, like the shipping model within India. So both of them didn't go anywhere. But the idea again was just to solve a problem that the marketplace has, or I had in the first one. In the second one, my extended family, they were all into small businesses, and they had that problem as in the trucking industry. If people are from India, they would know it's a big problem there. So those two things, but they both didn't go anywhere. And it was just to kind of my entrepreneurial genes to solve some problem.
Okay, fantastic. Well, but the basis there is actually looking to solve a problem, whether it's around social networking and being able to connect with people that had similar interests, like ping pong and table tennis, or
Yeah.
logistical issues.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
idea was that you were looking to solve that problem. You were looking to bring together, and so that makes me think, when you look at solving a problem in this addiction to passion as it relates
Yeah.
to real estate. I mean, what would you consider to be the problem that attracted you to real estate?
No, it's a great question. So the problem there is many folds. First, as when we go into the normal course of education in our education system, we don't get to like learn about personal finance at all, right? So this is something that everyone learns on their own, and they go to different tracks to figure these things out over the years. And for me, I read this purple book, Rich Dad Poor Dad and Cash Flow Quadrant. That actually really helped my change my mind. And what I really realized since then was that this particular problem of personal finance is something that everyone has, whether you're hyper professional, whether you are just starting out, whether you're in college. Like, doesn't matter where you are, which part of life you are in, it is a problem that's there, right? And especially for people who I was working with, who are making a lot of money in software. If you know software people, they make a lot of money. They had the money, but they didn't know how to invest that. So for me, that became into passion just for my own investing. But eventually I started helping other people out with their own money and help them invest and had their money work for them, right? So that kind of really changed my perspective on how more and more people started coming to me for investing their own money and asking for different investment opportunities. So that's really where first of all, I was having so much fun doing it on my own, and then when you add that piece that you're helping other people also invest their own money in, it kind of makes it so much more fun. And that's where I decided to kind of solve that particular problem by getting into this business. And also I started a podcast just like yourself to educate the people like who don't have the time but they do want to learn, be able to teach them.
So, and I see this once again, you're looking to solve a problem. This is a problem that everyone has. It doesn't matter if they are earning 20,000 a year or they're earning 2 million a year. It comes back to what you were talking about before with the area of personal finance. And I'm sure that was a journey that you've been on, right? You didn't have a finance background. I think you said computer science. And so talk to me about what has been this evolution in terms of your learning and development, and how have you gone about doing that?
Sure. So I did get my degree in computer science, but I want to mention that I do have a finance background since then, because I did my CFA. I was in fintech industry for last 14 years, 15 years when I was in a corporate job. But I would also say that finance knowledge really doesn't apply directly to personal finance. So people who have MBA degrees have the same problem in finance, because personal finance is very different from what you learn in MBA school. So for me, I guess your question is like, how did I get into the finance side of things, right? It's just
yeah, correct. Exactly. Really just helping, especially as you talk about that personal finance journey, just how you became more comfortable, more confident in being able to help others understand more about their own personal finance.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I'll tell you that when I started on this journey, I myself had many, many double thoughts, and I made a lot of mistakes while I was learning this personal finance journey. But over time, as I did more and more, I learned what works and what doesn't work. So, and that kind of gave me confidence over the years. And when I started looking for capital, I was actually even more careful with other people's money as I was for even my own money, because you get a huge responsibility with that. So, uh, just being very, very conservative when it comes to investing your own capital and along with other people's capital, right? So, just over time, I would say doing mistakes and learning from that, and then, converting that into real world experience.
Okay. So having made your mistakes, having continued to go out and have more repetitions, I guess would say, in terms of conversations that you're having, and then really continuing to surround yourself with the right people. And so there's one of the things that you talked about, where bringing capital together. So one of the things that I know that, and maybe we can start talking a bit more also too, in terms of Mesos Capital LLC, the I guess the mission of Mesos Capital LLC. If you can start to tell us a little bit about that, and I'd like to take us towards a syndication area.
Yeah, sure. No, so our mission is that helping people make their money work for them. So passive investing is something that so all of our friends and family, they are making good enough money in their full-time jobs, and they love their jobs, but they don't have the time or energy or the motivation or the knowledge, like either one of all these, or one of the knowledge, time, or energy to invest their own capital. But they do understand, or they do want to learn how this passive investing side of things work. So what we do at Mesos Capital is we try to educate these people on how the passive investing side of things work, and how you can make your money work for you, also while getting the tax benefits and the cash flow, passive income while working your full-time job. right? So this is the mission, to educate them and then help them invest their capital passively and get all the benefits of real estate, which is the cash flow, the tax benefit, the leverage, all the things that comes with it, to help them invest and reap the benefits. So that's what we do at Mesos Capital, and try to educate people on that stuff.
Perfect. So once again, you're working on helping to solve a problem for others. And as you mentioned before, was time and lack of time, although they have interest in being able to understand how they can maximize their finances. I know one of the things that we talked about before is you're really in Mesos Capital LLC, you're really focused on helping people to live their best life. And I know that one of the things that you feel strongly about is making sure that finances is not one of the things that holds someone back from being able to live that best life.
That's exactly right. So one thing I would like to add there is that in the US, I don't know about in Europe, you can tell me about Europe, but in the US, I've heard there are studies like people are more worried about their retirement now. Like the number one worry, I think it's number one or top two or number one, is how their retirement. It's about how well they can retire. So people don't spend enough time while during their working years when they're in their 30s, especially late 30s or early 40s, to think about that. But when they reach around late 40s or early 50s, they start thinking about it, right? I try to teach people that it's not, you should start thinking about creating passive streams of income while you're working, because that's when you can develop those streams very easily, because you're earning. You just keep that money aside, and when you retire, you would have this big passive income cushion on the side that they can rely on, and they don't even have to rely on their 401ks or retirement accounts. I don't know what they're called in Europe, but
well, exactly. So that they don't have to worry about their retirement accounts. There are many different names across Europe, depending on which country you're in. But at the end of the day, they're very much defined contribution plans, which act in a very similar way.
Right.
So that's fantastic. And speaking of which, so in terms of the education piece, and I appreciate you helping to clarify that, I do want to dive into. I know that you have a very specific 5-step process that you follow, which is something that, as you talked about, as a conservative investor, as you look at real estate, maybe you could help to also educate us here, our Going Long audience, to understand more about what is that 5-step process that you look at when you're going out to evaluate different types of opportunities.
Sure. So I call real estate investing as an ideal investment. When I say ideal, I literally mean ideal, IDEAL investment, and it's an acronym which I can expand on, where I stands for income, D stands for depreciation, E stands for equity, A stands for appreciation, and L stands for leverage. So I call real estate, an ideal investment literally, and I stands for income. What that means is really that the real estate, any investment that I'm doing, has to produce income on monthly basis. And so, for example, if I buy a single family house, we don't do that. But let's say if it is a single family house, it has to, after all the expenses are paid off, after all the mortgage expenses are paid off, it has to throw off some cash flow, right? So that's the income side. Then there is D, which is depreciation. So in the US, I'm sure probably in Europe as well, but in the US, there is a huge tax benefit. IRS gives these incentives to people who buy investment properties, where they can depreciate the value of the real estate as paper loss on their tax returns. What that means is they will actually show a loss, but that's not really a real loss. It's just fake. Not, let's not call it fake. It's on paper loss, right? And so if they made $10,000, they would not have to pay taxes on the loss that they actually have depreciated, but they will get that money. So that your tax effective rate is quite high in that case. And then you have
actually, if I could just stop you there, because I think this is one of the, just two things, because and of course, number one, Pancham is not giving any type of tax advice. Of course, he's giving us he's given us the overall kind of the theory behind it. So what you want to do is, you want to speak to your own advisors and understand specifically, but you've hit on something that's really important here, Pancham, because in Europe, this is something that we don't necessarily see a lot, the effectiveness and the strength of depreciation. So it's another reason that we would want to reach out to you, understand more about how the power of depreciation, when understood properly, when given the context of the individual and a specific opportunity. But because the power of depreciation is something that I would say is very unique to the United States, I'm so appreciative of the fact that you brought that up. So I don't want to stop you, but I just wanted to make those 2 points. And it's also another reason that we'd want to reach out to you to you later on. So I think we'd started with the income, we've gone to depreciation, and we're getting back to that ideal investment with the E, please.
Right. Yes. So the E stands for equity. So what that means is that when you actually buy a property, you pay down some money, right? Which is the equity, let's say 25% down or 20%, and rest you get from the bank. That equity part, as you pay down the mortgage over the years, you build equity in the property. So after 30 years or after 10 years or 20 years, whatever the loan amount is, or the term is, you actually have built equity over time. So as you pay that off, or renters pay that off for you, right? So that's the equity piece, right? And then you have A, which is appreciation. So all this time, while you're leveraging income, while you're leveraging depreciation, while you're actually putting down, the equity in the property, the property is also appreciating. In most cases, yes, we have had 2008 crisis, but if you look at investment real estate, especially multifamily, that's where we focus in. You will see that over time they have appreciated, and that also builds your equity when you actually sell it, right? So that's what H stands for. And then finally, the leverage, which is that you're able to use 80% or 75% of bank's money to buy these properties, and you get to keep all of the appreciation that we talked about with A, and you get to keep all the equity and all the depreciation and all the income, while bank makes their 4, 5, 6%, whatever the loan amount is. And when you sell it off, all of that is yours, as opposed to, real estate is one of very, very few asset classes where you can actually leverage it that well, as opposed to, let's say, stock market, where you go to a bank and ask for them for 80% loan to buy some stock and see what they have to say. So that's why this is just pretty amazing benefits if you really look at it.
Okay, fantastic. So just another reason that real estate, once again, is an ideal investment for you. So, and as we get ready to kind of wrap things up, there is another aspect that I know that's really important to you, and it's that whole aspect of being able to give back. And I know that there are a couple of ways that you're doing that. So maybe you could help our Going Long audience understand, what are some of the things, Pancham, that you do to actually give back to the community?
Sure. So there are a couple of things. One is I try to teach people. I'm always passionate about talking about personal finance. And so I have a podcast on that. And I spend quite a bit of time on educating people on personal finance. And then second is, I do these events. I used to do, but I still contribute to lls.org. That's one of the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Actually, two of my aunts, my father's sisters, passed away because of cancer. And, I've raised funds for this society to kind of, do cancer research. So that's another way what I do.
Okay, fantastic. So appreciate you sharing that with us as well. Well, Pancham, I always like to finish our discussions or our conversations with the final 3 questions. If you're ready for the final 3 questions, I'd like to go ahead and start asking you.
Absolutely. Fire away.
All right, perfect. So the very first question is, of course, Going Long, of being based here in Europe and investing back in the US, I'm always interested in understanding, and our audiences as well, what is your favorite European city, either that you visited or that you are preparing to visit? It's on your bucket list.
So I'll tell you this. We are recording this in 2020, and I had booked the flights to go to Spain, Barcelona, to to visit. That's one of our top, like my top list cities to visit, and really want to go. But because of the situation we are in, we had to cancel our flights. But yes, Barcelona is the answer to that.
Fantastic. Well, Pancham, I'm looking forward to seeing you here once we can get back to a new normal and have some travel, and love to be able to catch up with you here. So thanks so much for that.
Absolutely.
Another vote for Barcelona. So along the way, you've also had to, as any successful entrepreneur, you've, I'm sure, had a number of learning opportunities or mistakes, however you want to call them. And I'm interested really to have you share with the audience, really, of the mistakes that you've made, what is the one lesson that you'd like to share with others so that they don't have to pay full price, given the fact that you've already paid full price for it?
Yeah, no, I would say the number one lesson that I have is that, anything that you do, it's a people's game, and, it's people who you work with. And, a good team of people can take a bad project and get a very good outcome of that from that project, and a bad team of people can take a good project and make it bad. So for me, it's jockey is more important than the horse. So that's what I always say. And it's always, you have to make sure that your team is solid, and you're investing with people who like and trust. And that's number one advice I would say.
Okay, fantastic. So make sure you're with the right team, and that's fantastic advice. And I know you've experienced that firsthand. So thanks for sharing that with us. And then the very last question for today is, and I know you love to read, you love to take what you're reading and put it into action. So if you can leave us with one book that you're recommending or is having an impact on you that you think could also have a positive impact on others.
Sure. So I will tell you one book that really helped me while I was quitting my full-time job. That's this book, Turning Pro by Steven Pressfield. I have it in my hand right now. This one, like I read last year, it's really helped me while I was transitioning from my full-time job into full-time business. And one book that I'm reading right now that I feel is really good, I haven't finished, is like Influence by Robert Cialdini. Yeah. So it's that book is actually just amazing. So yeah, these two books.
Okay, fantastic. So Turning Pro and Influence. So those are two, Steven Pressfield and also Robert Cialdini as for Influence. So fantastic. Wow. Pancham, this has been, I knew it was going to be awesome. It has been awesome. So from India to the US, from marriage, children, to startups, learning loads of lessons from there, and then finding real estate, when being able to go from that addiction to passion, which is helping you today as a motor that's helping you to continue to educate not only yourself to become an even stronger investor, understanding your own personal finance. You've now been able to go out and affect so many other lives through Mesos Capital LLC, and also now with your own podcast, The Gold Collar Investor, which everyone needs to be able to listen to and check out. And then also too, you've helped us to understand why real estate is an ideal investment. So I know I have a lot of energy after this conversation. I know that our audience also has the same energy, and they're dying to figure out how in the world can I get in touch with Pancham. So please let us know, what is the best way to contact you or contact your team?
Sure. They can always reach out to me by emailing me at p@thegoldcollarinvestor.com. And, I'm always ready to talk if someone wants to chat, and they can connect me on LinkedIn as well.
Fantastic. So everybody, you need to reach out to Pancham now on LinkedIn and go to p@thegoldcollarinvestor.com. We're also going to include those in the show notes and on the different channels where you are either listening or watching this. So this has been absolutely awesome. Want to thank you once again, Pancham, for being a guest on the Going Long podcast. for all of our viewers and listeners. Want to make sure that you're here to join us next time as well. And make sure that you go out, that you are sharing this goodness with other people. At least share it with 2 other friends. And we really are looking forward to having you join us on the next episode. This is Billy Keels once again with the Going Long Podcast, and go out and make it a great day. Wow, don't you love hearing from top-notch experts in the field? You know, when I was getting started, I really wish that I would have had access to such experts. And even more, I wish they would have given me like a really simple list of things to follow so that I could have gotten to my goals much faster and been much happier even sooner. So that's why I've created for you the 7 things that you should avoid in order to be successful in long-distance investing. And you can pick that up really easily by going to billykeels.com/7 things to avoid. And also, if you liked today's episode, don't forget to leave a 5-star review. I'm looking forward to seeing you on our very next episode, so go out and make it a great day.